Hey everyone, it's me Holly. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be giving some advice on starting first year of university. I've recently finished my first year and I'm heading into my second year, which is absolutely terrifying, but it's okay. I did sit on this video for so long and I was like, I don't feel qualified enough to talk about first year. But then I sat down and I wrote out all the advice that I was either given by other people that was really useful or that I wish I'd known, and I was like, I can share this. I feel like I can share this advice and hopefully someone will find it useful. For me, university was such like an unknown thing. Like I didn't know much about what I was getting myself in for before starting uni, and I kind of clung on to like TikToks and YouTube advice videos, and that was what kind of got me through my first year basically. But yeah, anyway, let's just get into the advice. So the first thing that you can look forward to is there's going to be some freshers events that are going to go on, which is just for like first years to meet new people and just partake in just fun activities. I know at my uni they did like keychain making and like random stuff like that, like speed friending where you just, I think it's like speed dating but with friends. Like I didn't go to many of my freshers events. I kind of wish I did, but you know, I was really nervous about doing stuff, and I was also a commuting student, so I wasn't on campus. I think if I was on campus I would have gone to loads. What I did go to was loads of like introduction talks about my course, so you'll probably be sent an email, or if you just check your uni's website there will be emails telling you all the freshers events, what times, what days. Like there will be like timetables. I feel like most unis are quite on it with the freshers events, and yeah, they're just an opportunity to get familiar. You're not doing your lectures yet, so you can just have that fun before it starts. And I found my introduction talks were really useful just to give me all the information about what I'm going to be doing for my first year. Even into my third year, they were talking about my placements and stuff, which it just kind of gave like this overall idea of what my next few years are going to look like. And for me, I always worry about like what actually I'm gonna be doing. So yeah, that was really useful. And also on one of my, I think it was literally my first introduction talk, which I was really happy about doing, like having these talks, because obviously I'm not on campus, so the freshers events I wasn't going to many of them, but I felt like the talks about my course were just an easy way into like meeting people on my course and stuff like that. And I saw a TikTok advice video which said, go over to someone and just say, can I sit next to you, or can I sit here, and then just sit down with them, because the likelihood is they will say yes. Like loads of people are on their own, like the majority of people are on their own. Like I went into my first like introductory talk thing, and there was just a group of us that were all came on our own, but like we were all in there together, so we just started talking. And it's a weird thing because in general life there's not this kind of like unity. I don't think, like, you don't just go up to random people and start talking on the daily basis, but like in the university environment, especially if you're a fresher, that is literally what everyone wants. They just want people to come over and talk to them, and it's not even like they're not gonna back away from it. They want that like as much as you do. And I did have that feeling where I was like, I might just be the one that's thinking I need to talk to these people. Likelihood is everyone's in the same situation. First introduction lecture, I sat next to this girl, and I was like just chatting to her about literally whatever. That it's university is such a new thing that you're gonna have something to talk about. We ended up, she's actually my closest friend at uni, which I actually was so anxious after speaking to her, because I had asked for her Instagram and I don't know what it was, but just like a part of my brain was telling me that was really weird to do. It literally wasn't, because else I wouldn't have had any way to contact her. But you know, like your brain will find ways to trick you. Your brain will find ways to basically make you feel like you've done something wrong. Just go for it. My confidence rose so much at uni, and we can get onto that a little bit later, but I am literally not a social person, but I was socializing, which is insane. Anyway, go to your welcome events, go to your like there was like this society thing where you could go around and look at all the different societies. I went around and looked at some of them. I didn't end up joining one, which I think I might try and do this year, but like I went round and I just collected loads of these little like pamphlets about the different societies, and then just googled loads of them later, and I was quite interested in a few of them, but you know, my anxiety didn't really accommodate for the societies, but it's okay. Another thing I'm going to tell you about is the types of learning that you're going to do at uni, because I feel like that's something I was really confused about. I started like watching YouTube videos of like people vlogging their days just to try and work out what type of like lectures or like seminars, what even are seminars. I was just trying to learn what was going to happen because I was so confused. But that's why I'm going to share with you the different types of learning you might do. Now, for different courses, you might have different ways of learning, but I think this is like generally what could happen. So the main thing is the lectures, which is where just everyone on your course sat in this massive lecture hall and you're just listening to this lecturer talk. And you just have to take your notes. I loved the lectures because you're not required to do much. You obviously should be listening, taking your notes and stuff like that, but it just felt like, because there were so many people, I just felt comfortable to just sit there and do my learning at my own speed and pace, and that was really nice. I felt that environment was my favourite out of all of them. There's also breaks in the lectures sometimes, and that's when you can just talk to people in your course, which is quite nice, and yeah, catch up on notes and stuff. I quite like my lectures. Sometimes you do get a lecture that's a little bit boring and you're stuck sat there, but at the end of the day, like, you're gonna have some lectures that may not interest you, but then other ones that are just so interesting that you're just so encapsulated by it, which is really good. In my lectures, how I took my notes, kind of, I was still discovering that when I started, and the way I started doing it was using OneNote. So I would put the PowerPoint onto my OneNote and basically just put any notes beside it. I ended up starting to make flashcards in the lectures. So I used Anki, but then I am now going to use Quizlet, so that's not really a recommendation. But yeah, I used Anki at the time to do my flashcards, just an online website thing. And I'd basically look at the PowerPoint and also listen to what they were saying, and anything that seemed like it was important, I would write the question and then the answer on the flashcard, because I realized when it came to revising, I would have to make the flashcards anyway, so I thought I might as well just, you know, get straight to it and make them in the lectures. So that's how I made my notes in my lectures. Obviously people do it different ways, but that's what I found useful for my exams. Then there's seminars, which I didn't have too many of those, but I had a couple. Mine were basically just lectures in my first year. But anyway, so the seminars is basically when you're in a smaller group of people and it's a little bit more interactive, and you're basically, sometimes you have to do a little bit practical stuff or like, you know, share with the group. I was really worried about seminars because people were saying that like you had to partake, and I'm pretty sure in my second year I probably will, but in my first year it wasn't that deep. But that might be because I only was doing one module in a seminar, and it wasn't much of my, it wasn't a big percentage of my grade, so I don't really I think other people might have had like a, I don't know if other people's seminars were more intense, but mine for my first year was actually okay. And yeah, it was just like nicer to be in a smaller group, I guess, and easier to talk to people because you're in a smaller room and most likely have to sit next to someone. But yeah, for me, the seminars weren't as scary as I thought they were. But then again, different universities, different courses, I can't promise you anything. So the workshops, I didn't have many of these either, but I'm pretty sure when I had to do a group project, and I think that was classed as a workshop. I don't even know, did I even do a workshop in my first year? I think there was something that was labelled as a workshop, but I don't really know. But the workshops, I'm pretty sure, is where you have to like learn and like just work on something. So like they'll teach you how to do something. I think it's really similar to my labs. I had labs which were basically teaching you how to use the coding website that we use for psychology. I don't think I've mentioned, but I do take psychology. That's my subject. Yeah, so workshops and labs, not everyone's going to have them, I don't think, but for labs they were teaching us how to do, like, use the coding website, just kind of hands-on experience, I guess. And then the workshops was kind of similar to that, but for me, I was doing my group project, so you were just working with a group of people on the coding website and different stuff like that. But yeah, the main things I had in my first year was lectures and seminars. So yeah, that's the types of learning that you might be doing. Obviously different courses and stuff. Also, you'll have like study time for yourself. So obviously that's time that you've got to like make yourself. You can go to the library or just do it in your accommodation or at home. And you might get like different readings. So the uni might send you a textbook, which we got like given loads of these textbooks, like online versions. I will be honest with you, I didn't do loads of reading in my first year. I started in my first term, I was on it, I was doing as much as I could. When second term came around, I kind of slacked a bit, but I spoke to my academic advisor, which an academic advisor, I'm sure like every uni has some equivalent to this, but it's basically you get assigned a person, a lecturer or just a member of staff who will kind of oversee your time and just like look at your attendance and just make sure you're generally doing well and okay in the subject. And if you've got any like problems with the course, then they will listen to them and help. I think that the main reason is because obviously when you're doing lectures, it's such a big room that you're most likely not going to go talk to the lecturer. So it's just like a one-on-one sort of thing where they will help you. And that was really useful for me because likelihood is I'm not going to go over and speak to my lecturers. So just having that contact with someone was quite useful. And I asked her, she said, is there anything that you're a little bit like worried about? And I said, I haven't been doing as much reading as I was hoping to. I just got so behind on it. And she told me that the main thing for my first year was to make sure I did a little bit of the reading just before my exams, because that's when I'm going to find it the most useful. She said that would be the most useful if I just did it over like maybe a week of just looking at some of it. That would be the most useful, but not to stress too much because the reading is going to be more important for year 2. So she basically just said like if I was slacking behind on the reading, it was okay, and that was quite reassuring. But let's move on to the big topic in this video, which is making friends and talking to people. This is something I've never understood, and I'm not just saying that, I'm just really don't understand conversations or the concept of friendships. I have really, really good friends. I just don't know how that came to be. Like, I just know that I've got my people that I'm comfortable with, and when I try and think about just like how it occurred, my I just don't know. So obviously when I'm trying to make new friends, I don't really know what I'm trying to do. I just have to do. So starting uni, I think the main piece of advice I heard was that everyone's in the same boat, and I just had to kind of just force myself to believe it. Like, as much as you want to be like, no, I trust me, I'm gonna be so awkward, I just had to push through and just have to commit. And you have to, like, I need to get this point across. Beforehand, I really, really was not good at talking to people, or I believed I wasn't. I just never really did it. Being put in the situation where you have to, I was talking to everyone. Trust me, like, now this might not happen for most people, but I think I kind of got into that mindset in my first few weeks. So I was like, I want to feel comfortable, and the only way I can get to that point is if I just try and get familiar faces around me and just kind of know someone. And I just kind of got into that zone where I was like, okay, I'm just going to chat to someone. Single event I went to, just at least one person spoken to. I found that when I was like walking to new lecture halls or different things, like, there you will find someone who is also looking confused, and that is who you've got to go for. That sounds really creepy, but like, there's always like a group of people that you can tell don't know really where they're going, And my favourite thing would just be to go over and say, oh, are you also doing this? It is a risk. It is a risk, but most, like, I can't even explain to you, but every single time I was asking these questions, I just knew deep down. I was like, I know they're doing this course with me, and every single time I succeeded. So no awkward moments, but there was the risk, and I just had to push past the risk. But yeah, I really did just speak to people that I just couldn't believe it. It's going to sound really sad, but I was just really proud of myself for actually talking to people, because that's not something I do on the regular. And weirdly, it just gave me this whole new confidence of just being in public. Like, I think I was just really, like, I'm such a home person that, like, going out used to just be a little bit like, my posture's awful when I go out. I'm just always, like, shy and keeping to myself. Like, I don't vibe in public. But then, as soon as I was at uni, I was loving getting the bus, going into different lectures, just chatting to random people. Like, what actually happened to me, I don't know. But it was really, really refreshing, actually. And, like, I will admit, sometimes you're with people that you've kind of, like, spoken to, and, like, you kind of cling together because you don't know anyone else. And sometimes I did think to myself, like, I don't really know, like, this is going to sound really silly, like, but I was like, I don't know when, like, how conversations actually work. Like, we're talking about different TV shows and stuff, but I'm like, I don't know how I get to the point where, like, I just start, like, I don't know, sharing stories. I don't know. I don't really know, but, like, so the friend I made in my first ever introduction lecture thing, we just ended up just chatting about literally anything. Like, I used to actually get excited to go to my lectures just to have a chat. Especially because I'm a commuting student, so, like, that is where I would be talking to people the most. I think maybe that also gave me a little bit of, like, courage, because I knew at the end of the day, like, I have a bus to catch. Like, if I was somewhere and, like, just talking to a new person and maybe I'm a bit, like, starting to get a little bit awkward, I've always got a bus to catch. But mostly I just was talking to new people, and actually I was more fascinated than anything. I was like, I'm just excited to learn about people. That is literally my course. But, like, it was really nice to just have so many different people that I kind of knew little bits about. It's very nice. But anyway, yeah, so main thing is just to, like, you just have to get into the zone of just thinking, like, once I push past its first maybe, like, few weeks, once I get past that, it should, like, if I try my hardest for the first 2 weeks and really lock in on just, like, talking to different people in your different, like, classes, then you will at least find someone who is familiar to you, and then eventually, like, you will be talking to more people in your course. There are so many different opportunities to meet new people in your courses, because I was in groups with people that I didn't know, and you just have to kind of, like, lock in. Just, at least when it's your course, you'll have at least one subject that you know you're connected by, which is, for me, it was psychology. And you can just talk about, like, different lectures, different lecturers, anything like that. That is the subjects I was really honing in on. Okay, exams. How will you be assessed at your uni? Obviously, again, I'm going to say different courses will have different ways, but I think a lot of the time they will do coursework and in-person exams. I had a couple of online exams as well, which to me was a little bit shocking, because I was like, I'm literally at home, like, how are they trusting me? I think because it was my first year and I don't really know, but they did, so I don't really know what was going on there, but a lot of my exams at the end of the year were in person. So yeah, basically you can probably look on your, like, if you get any resources sent to you by the university, like with all the different course information, likelihood is you can probably search up or find somewhere the different exam, like how you're going to be assessed. So I did a bit of coursework for some subjects and exams for others. So the coursework side of it was, there were some online quizzes that we would do after every lecture. So there was a couple modules that did that kind of structure where You just had to basically do a quiz. You could take it as many times as you want, but you would do it after every lecture. Not all of them did that, but some did, just to make sure you were partaking in the course. And then we also did some essays, like 1,500 word essays. And then I also did in-person exams, which was basically multiple choice. I know some people did written exams for their first year, but for me it was multiple choice. One thing I will say about multiple choice is that it does sound like it's going to be easy, but you also just have to have that awareness that like these lecturers will be trying to trick you with these different multiple choice questions. So just don't log out your brain, like actually still be focusing on it, because you want to make sure you're reading the wordings correctly and everything like that. But anyway, for the coursework, I'm going to talk about like essays and how I did mine, because I had to kind of get familiar with the different structure of like a so I do psychology. I wrote up I think it was just an essay. Wrote an essay on cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, and that's a subject and like a concept I'd never heard of before. So basically, we had a lecture on it, and then it was all up to us to do some research and stuff like that. So what I did was, luckily, the uni did give us templates of what to do where for our first essay, which was really useful. If not, just search up a template and it should be helpful. Obviously don't like copy anything, but like, because obviously plagiarism is such a big thing and they do like the checkers to make sure that you haven't plagiarized. But what I mean is like to get the structure of what an essay looks like. So introduction, blah blah blah. I've forgotten now, it's been so long. And conclusion. That's the ones I remember. But yeah, so for my essays, basically I would try and get looking at them as soon as I could. Just as soon as I had a little bit of motivation and I saw that they had put the resources up, I was on it. Like sometimes they do it a little bit earlier than you actually have the lecture, which always good. Especially if you have like a moment of motivation, always choose to do something relating to uni, because likelihood is later on you're not going to have that motivation again. So anyway, when I'm doing my essays, I would basically look at what I'm being asked to do. So it was cognitive dissonance for me. And then I would go onto Google Scholar and just basically look at loads of different like papers and articles on cognitive dissonance. And just save them all, and the ones that I wanted anyway. So I'd look through and look at this like introduction and the summary of what would be included, and then I would just put them onto a separate Word document, highlight in a colour if any link to each other. So, you know, if there's a relating topic in certain ones, I will just like highlight them both in green. Just like the colour coding was really useful, because then I knew what paragraph to put which into. And then also so I separated out how I would research. So I would spend one day or like one study session basically just looking at loads of different like titles of articles and then the summaries of them. If they seem relevant, I'd put them onto the Word document and I'd write my own like little summary, like really small, just so I knew what was in it. And then after that study session, I would basically have a Word document with lots of different references and like links to the different articles. So when I came back the following study session, I could basically get straight onto just reading through as many as I could, any that I thought were the best to use. And then that was a separate study session. I wasn't trying to do crazy amounts in each one, just like separating it out is really useful. And then when you've kind of got the general idea, you've highlighted different parts of it and you've taken what you want from it and you've basically got it into your brain, what you need to kind of do, that's when I would start writing up a paragraph at a time and just making sure that that was as like solid as I could before I moved on to another one. Sometimes you would write way too much. There was so many times I wrote so much and I just had to spend so long trying to remove stuff. Like, I think I actually spent more time removing stuff from my essays and just basically like really just making sure each word and each line just was as good as it could be. It just took so long, the whole like editing situation. So basically, once I'd wrote up my essays, I would go through like a 3 draft type vibe. Like, I would read it through once and then basically just like change what I needed to, wait a couple days, read it through again, change what I needed to, get down the word count if needs be, and then on the third one I would basically just try and finalize literally all I could. And just breaking it up like that kind of always gave me a goal of what to do each time I was doing it. So yeah, that's just how I kind of went about my essays, in a very like military way, just like getting straight on onto it. But yeah, a lot of the time I would do them when I had like bursts of motivation, and the earlier the better is what I found. The earlier the better. You don't want to be rushing last minute. I don't think I ever had one where I was like really rushing, which was really useful because I actually hate having to rush anything. But yeah, I did just want to cut in and talk about feedback, because obviously if you're submitting in stuff, your likelihood is you're going to get a grade back for it and some feedback. I had a whole seminar talking about feedback because it can be really disheartening, especially when you get criticism, which the likelihood is you're going to get criticism. And it's really hard for us to actually take that, especially me. I did not like getting the criticism, not because like I was like I'm the best, but because I was like I think it's also a part of my personality that's like so people pleasing that I don't want to know what I've done wrong, because I feel like they're going to be judging that. That's my problem. But this seminar basically said, like, just sit on the feet, like, when you receive the feedback, you don't have to instantly go look at it, check what your grade is, but you don't have to instantly go see what you did right and wrong. And then eventually you will get to the point where you kind of want to check what you did. Maybe you're getting another essay done and you just want to make sure, like, if there's any structural issues, maybe you can fix that. And feedback is one of the most important ways to learn, because you've done that and now you can learn from the mistakes. And I found a lot of my feedback was really nice as well. Like, it's very well explained from my uni anyway. And they will give you very like important things that obviously they don't expect you to know in your first year, but like that will make such a crucial difference. And I really did take so much away from the feedback. So if you ever receive any and you're a bit like worried about looking at it, or you don't like what you've seen, try and speak to maybe a seminar leader or any like advisor you have, and just go for it with them, because it's really good to have feedback. I'm pretty sure that's all my advice for you guys. Please comment down below if you've got anything that you want to ask, and I'll try my best to answer it. I will also say I am a commuting student, so I have posted a video a little while ago with some advice about being a commuting student, so I'll link that down below. Basically I get the bus to my lectures every time. It's like a 40-minute bus journey. The place is not that far away. The bus just goes to so many different stops. But anyway, and honestly, like, I found commuting in my first year, it was actually okay. Sometimes it is really easy to just stay at home, because you are literally at home, and also you have to get something to get into the uni. So it's like, I'm gonna have to wait for buses, and do I feel like I've got the energy? No. But at the end of the day, I feel like I did go in as much as I could. Maybe not. No, I tried my best to go in as much as I could, but yeah, I would definitely go check out that video if you are commuting to uni. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.